Shalom, brothers and sisters. Shalom, brothers and sisters. Giving honor unto the Most High, the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. My name is Yeshaya Yisrael of the tribe of Dan of the nation of Israel. This is not going to be a long presentation. However, we wanted to, brothers and sisters, address the situation in due respect. This is called, brothers and sisters, From Assyria to America, Part 2. Now, brothers and sisters, this here is From Assyria to America, Part 1. But he's not going to put as Part 1 until Part 2 comes out. Part 2, brothers and sisters, the flyer for such, as seen in the thumbnail, is this here. All right? So the point, brothers and sisters, in this particular short presentation is to go over the purpose of the book, the due date that the book has, and so forth and so on. All right? The purpose of this book, as in the others, is to help set truth back into the earth. We believe, know, and understand that truth has been suppressed. The Old Testament book of Daniel, it says that when the Greeks came to power, namely between, say, the time of Alexander until the time, say, culminating in Antiochus the fourth, you have it to where truth was cast to the ground. So what we want to do, brothers and sisters, in respectfully taking advantage of publishing, independent publishing, and so forth and so on. What we want to do is help put truth back into the earth. The Bible in the book of Psalms 85, it says the truth shall come from the earth. This is why a brother doesn't have a problem using archaeology in order to sit there and prove a point on a particular matter. All right? So, brothers and sisters, if we will, we want to show this book right here. Again, part of the cover. This is author copy right here. Egypt Talk in Writing. That is the very first book that I came out with back, thank the Most High, back in 2016. April 4th, 2016 is when that book came out. The next book to come out after that, this being the updated version of it, was this one here. Deuteronomy 28, 15 to 68, History Untold to the Masses. That particular book was released September 2016. The third, and I may say, I think most controversial book, this is the updated version, is this one here. Old Testament Israelites Respond to Messianic Israelites. That book came out, brothers and sisters, in June 2017. Brothers and sisters, after that, thanks to the Most High, showing the updated versions of these, brother began to write Hebrew books. This is Hebrew is Easy, Volume 1. This book was released in 2018. I actually wrote that book when I was on vacation in North Carolina. This book here, updated version, is Hebrew is Easy, Volume 2. Now, the reason why there's like a pink cover is because a lot of this, if you look, brothers and sisters, in this book here, into the table of contents on chapter 3 of this, it speaks about the feminine principle in Hebrew. So that's why I made a cover in that particular manner, or had a cover made in that particular manner. That book was released in 2018 as well. Okay? Brothers and sisters, this book here, Hebrew is Easy, Volume 3. This book was released, told out to the Most High, 2020. This book here, Hebrew is Easy, Volume 4, was released 2020. This book here, Hebrew is Easy, Volume 5, was released in 2020. This book here, Hebrew is Easy, Volume 6, was released in 2020. This book here, which is part one of what we're talking about, From Assyria to America, this book here was released in 2020. This book here, brothers and sisters, Israelite history as it relates to the world, was released in 2020. Brothers and sisters, this book here, the intention of the release date in this is 2021. That is the intended release of this book is February 1st, which is this coming said Monday, which we know to be the second day, right? And it is in part because many of our people are going to be into what is referred to as Black History Month. So we want to, in respect, take advantage of the time when our people's ears and their minds and their hearts are open to want to sit there and hear history and so forth and so on. We want to present it from an Israelite and biblical perspective, and then let the people who support, after reading or so, make up their own conclusions. This is why, and I say this in respect, it's not that I deny about the truth of us being the house of Israel, but in the books that I write, I don't say it's the truth, the truth, the truth. The commandments are the truth. It says, he who is in the truth walketh by the commandment. Nobody is perfect. We all got things to work on our character and ourselves. So until a certain pedigree has reached, a brother, namely myself, I do not say I am speaking the truth, though I know and understand it to be the truth. Present it and let the people do their own research, and they will come to the truth, be it the will of the Most High, be it the will of the Most High to use you as a tool to bring this truth to his people. So these are things we want to talk about for reason and purposes. Now, when we look, brothers and sisters, at this here, From Assyria to America, the table of contents is from Egypt to America, from Avaris to Alabama, the Romans and the Israelites, how to teach Deuteronomy 28, from Ghana to Georgia, from Dahomey to Delaware, from Nigeria to Niagara, from Madagascar to Manhattan. Now, brothers and sisters, from Ghana to Georgia, Ghana is a place in Africa. Georgia is a place in the United States. That chapter, which is chapter 5 in this book right here, that you see, from Ghana to Georgia, that chapter gets into the evidence of the slave trade. That book gets into the Spaniard people who were speaking about themselves as enslavers and captors, how they appealed to the courts of Spain to have ships made. It speaks about Charles V in the matter of the Asiento. It speaks about the Quisqueya and what we call the island of DR or Haiti today. It speaks about the Taino people and so forth and so on. So, brothers and sisters, that is what that chapter does focus and talk about in that particular realm. It gets into the aspect of Pizarro. It gets into the aspect of Ponce de Leon. Now, real quick, Ponce de Leon, brothers and sisters, was a Spaniard who helped, to the best of his ability, annihilate the people in Borocane. Borocane was the original name of what we call today Puerto Rico. So in this book also, it talks about the Asiento. The Asiento is the Spanish word for seat, S-E-A-T. And in that, what that was a legal, though not righteous, document stating that people can transport enslaved people from Western Africa to the places called today as Jamaica, Haiti/Dominican Republic, Cuba, and Puerto Rico. So when we talk about the aspect of the slave trade, we do know and understand that the places called the colonies, which later became known as the United States of America, is where the minority of the people who were captives were brought to. The majority of the slave ships went to Brazil, then after that, the West Indies, then after that, the current United States. So these are things we want to emphasize for edification purposes. In this book also, I detailed the dates of when the slave trade started in these places and when it ended. Did you know that the last slave ship that came to what we call in America, the United States, was in Alabama in 1859? Some say 1860. Most sources I read speak about that ship, the Clotilde, in Africa Town, which is a place in Alabama, was in 1859. That is documented in this particular book as well. Did you know that the last slave ship that went to Brazil was in 1888? These are things, brothers and sisters, that we want to emphasize and talk about for edification purposes. Did you know, brothers and sisters, that in this book right here, I detailed in a chapter called From Madagascar to Manhattan, that there were Portuguese people taking our ancestors from Madagascar under South Africa, going from basically the Indian Ocean all the way into the Atlantic Ocean, and then dropping the people off in what we call about Wall Street and Fulton Street in Manhattan today. These are things that are detailed within this book right here, brothers and sisters. In this book here, brothers and sisters, Deuteronomy 28, verse 68 is discussed. In that particular case, brothers and sisters, you have it to where there are people saying that there was a Roman historian by the name of Munter. And according to that, we, the black, as they call us, which we don't call ourselves black Hebrew Israelites, but they who call us that, they say that we are wrong when we say that Deuteronomy 28:60 is talking about the Atlantic slave trade. Brothers and sisters, in this book right here, I explain things to the Most High, going over history, going over lingual matters, the meaning of the word Mizraim, and so forth and so on. All right. So these are things we want to talk about for reason and purposes, if we will. All right. Now, in this, I don't have the cover of it yet because the due date is for next week. So therefore, I have a printout of the flyer itself. All right. And here's what it says. All people who are seekers and lovers of Black history is this dedicated to. This book details the history and migration of the Israelites from the era of the Hebrews or the Habiru in Egypt / Sematawi to the Hebrews / African Americans in the United States. The author cites authors and historians for reasonable purposes. All right. Now, for those who are interested in any of the books so far, you can go to this site here, Amazon.com/author/Vince History. Now, I want to explain for those who are already familiar with the brother writings and so forth and so on. I changed the author name in the history books from Yeshaya Yisrael, which is the name that I maintain in the Hebrew books, author pen name, for reasons. A couple of people have asked me, and I want to explain and respect the people who took the time out to even ask me why I did such. The last name, when I say Vincent Hutchinson, the last name belonged as a colonial matter to my father. May he rest in peace. So I wanted to give honor, though even through the English name, to the man who was responsible on a human level for me to be in this earth. He is due that honor. May he rest in peace. And this is not taking nothing away from Yisrael itself. Also, brothers and sisters, for those who had followed the channel, I wanted to reach a wider audience. Now, let me put that in there, wider. A wider audience when it goes for what they refer to in author matters, such as expanded distribution. That's when it goes into colleges. That's when it goes on other people's avenues and websites. That's when it goes into, say, barnesandnobles.com. That's when it goes into these other aspects as well. I wanted it to not turn some people off who may not understand why the author name isn't a Hebrew name. So that's what it was as far as it goes with that particular case. Some people may agree with that decision. Some people may not. Glory to the Most High, regardless of what language. Brothers and sisters, what we want to talk about in this here, before we close out, in this particular matter here, the table of contents of this book. The matter of 1619. There were Israelites teaching that we were supposed to have been delivered in 1619, saying that Genesis chapter 15 says 400 years. So they're taking it from 1619 and then saying, well, 2019 was supposed to have been the deliverance date. This is now February coming into. We are now currently today in January 29th. Our deliverance has not come yet, the way in which it was being discussed. So, no, that was not the due date in that particular manner. So that's what that chapter gets into, that particular realm. The next chapter is the matter with Egypt. Now, there are two things I talk about in that chapter here called the matter with Egypt. And that's this. One, the Torah does not come from Egypt. Secondly, that chapter gets into the aspect of how ancient Egyptian culture and modern American culture are friends, how it's linked together, and so forth and so on. In that particular chapter, brothers and sisters, I explain this here and the symbolisms on it. What the pyramid stood for, the Latin Roman numerals, if you will, and all of the symbols that we begin to see. And this is no disrespect to any Israelites. If you look at the stars there, which are 13 stars, right, on the eagle, over the eagle's head, and that forms the symbol that many people refer to as the Star David or Shield of David. Because a brother cannot show that symbol in the scriptures, I personally do not deal with that symbol as I did deal with it when I was younger, because of how it was used and is used. And because I cannot show that being the shield of David in shape via the scriptures, personally, to be on the safer side, just disregard it. If I stand to be corrected, if it is truly in righteousness, part of us as a symbol, then it is. And if not, then so be it. And so that's what it is as far as it goes in that particular realm. All right. The aspect of the eye on a $1 bill also is discussed. The aspect of gender identification, how ancient Egypt had hermaphrodite gods, and how America promotes lasciviousness in that particular case, if we will. Brothers and sisters, part of that I want to show in this, if we will, for edification purposes, right? If we look, brothers and sisters, at this, brothers and sisters, is what they call the Baphomet, all right? And that is a symbol that was used, brothers and sisters, in witchcraft. And it still is used in witchcraft. The thing we want to emphasize, this is coming from the Egypt book, right? You see how the ancient Egyptians, from the era of King Tutankhamun, had black people attacked with dogs? so do we see in this place here in America. This is from Alabama, when black people attacked with dogs. So though the Egypt book here, or the book basically called Egypt Talking Writing, gets into it, in the forthcoming book, due for release, Creator willing, next week, gets into it a bit more intense. All right. So in that particular matter. Now, the next chapter here called The Matter with the Edomites. That particular chapter examines whether or not the Arabians are the Edomites, as some Israelites say, if the white man or white people in general are the Edomites, as some Israelites say, if the Jewish man, which is a part of white people, are the Edomites, as some Israelites say, or are the Edomites scattered from African and European places? And what tribes lay claim to being of the house of Edom today? So that right there is something that chapter gets into for reason and purposes. For those who already have read the book, Egypt Talking Writing, part in the cover, this is the author cover, right? I state in there, the white man is not Edom. I'll state that sentence right there, emphatic in that particular case. All right. And by the way, that chapter here in the forthcoming book about the Edomites gets into the matter of the prophecy of Obadiah. All right. The next chapter, From Assyria to America, part 2, which is what this book is, part 2 of volume 2, right? What that gets into is showing pictures with words about what the book of Kings talks about from Tiglath-Pileser and before him Shalmaneser, and the situation, brothers and sisters, of Adad-Nirari and Jehoash, king of Judah, and so forth and so on. So, brothers and sisters, if we will, it gets all the way into the governors of the United States who were in support of the slave trade. Who worked with who regarding that particular matter. The fact that Thomas Jefferson in 1807 made it illegal for the international slave trade, but turned his eye to the side when it was still going on. So that's what you want to talk about in that particular manner. This one here, right? The matter the matter of history and pitches. What that is a culmination of over 20 or so pitches that explains history through pitches, with side notes explaining such and such from maps and so forth and so on. One of the things that I highlight in that particular thing, the matter of history and pitches, is that this land here, the Western Hemisphere, the United States of America, as well as South America, is not the homeland of the house of Israel. Jerusalem is not in Peru. Utah is not the land of Judah. Those are things that we talk about. Peru in South America is not where Jerusalem is. So these are things we want to talk about, citing maps, citing scriptural citations. One thing pointed out in that chapter is in Numbers chapter 34, verse 6, because it says, describing the geography of the land of Israel, it says that the Western Sea is your western border. So if the United States that we speak of today is the land of Israel, the promised land, and if you're saying in part that Utah is where Jerusalem is, brothers and sisters, how then can Jonah go from where he was to Joppa to go to Tarshish, which is in the Bible? See, as Israelites, the Bible is our primary source. Yes, we do use other citations as 2 and 3 witnesses as a matter being established. Not that we don't want to just use the Bible, but the Bible, as it says, the truth shall come from the earth. So there's nothing wrong with using other citations to support a point, brothers and sisters. All right. Then we have here the chapter called The Holy Name, What that chapter gets into is whether or not the said tetragrammaton, the YHWH, is the name of the Most High. In that chapter, I want to make a disclaimer right now. I do not say what is the correct pronunciation because we don't know that particular case. Sometimes we just have to say we don't know. Psalms chapter 68 is where it says his name Yah. Yah, the name itself is used in the book of Exodus chapter 15. So there's nothing wrong in that particular realm and in that particular matter. All right. Next part here, this is the shortest chapter of the book. The tribe of Dan gets into the aspect of showing that the tribe of Dan is not destroyed, and pictures of people who lay claim or who are claimed also to be of the tribe of Dan. All right. And closing out, we have from Angola to Arkansas. That chapter right there, similar to part one of the book or the series, from Assyria to America, right? Gets into the captives that was taken out of Angola, citing Rudolph Windsor book when he spoke about the Israelites that's in Angola that was taken to Brazil and what that entails in that particular matter. So closing out, giving honor to the Creator, we just want to do this prelude to the book that will be coming out, Creator willing, next week. Stay tuned to the channel, subscribe, like, comment, share. If you do dislike, please leave a comment on why you dislike, out of respect. Maybe it's my presentation. Maybe it's something that you think or know that I should work on to better the video or the books itself. I don't mind constructive criticism. So with that, Shalom, Most High bless.